Sorry about the delay, guys. Good to see everyone back for a brand new live stream. Hold on, let me just turn up my brightness a little bit. That's better. Being, good to see you, buddy. Selflex, good to see you. Shinobi, good to see you. Hit the likes, guys. Before we start, hit the likes. It does help me out a lot. It helps push in the algos, so I would appreciate if you guys just hit the likes. It doesn't cost nothing. Only takes a few seconds. Cook, good to see you. Tony, Silver, good to see you, brother. Brick, good to see you. I guess this is largely about BOJ. Thanks you for streaming. Yes, it is actually. I'll go over BOJ in a few minutes. We did have the data come out, and it did not look that bad. So the BOJ data, let's go back on, hold on, not next week. Previous week, there we go. Let's just scroll down. The BOJ data did come out. The inflation numbers wasn't as bad. So the likely chances of them actually increasing the interest rates at the very moment, it's not likely to happen because the actual inflation year over year was forecasted to come in at 3.7. It came in at 3.6, which is pretty good. The only thing I would say is their core inflation has risen, but that was as predicted. So it was not anything out of the ordinary. It's not like they were predicting 2.8 and it went to 3.2. So they was predicting 3.2 and it came out exactly 3.2, which is good. Inflation, excluding food and energy, 2.9. So it has risen from their forecast of 2.7. So it's not the worst. It's like a bit of a mixed data. But I don't really think the Bank of Japan will actually raise the interest rates. And the reason is because their currency against the US dollar is so strong that they don't need to actually raise, because that's a lot of these Japan normally does raise when their currency gets really weakened by the US dollar. Hold on, why am I in the 5-minute time frame? Let's go on the daily. So you guys can see their currency is doing fairly well. They normally when it comes to around these regions back in August, July, August, they started to unwind, and then we started to actually get a raise, and now the exact same thing's happening. So the currency is strong. I don't think they have the incentive to raise, and the government said that they will only raise when the market is in a strong position. So right now the market is not in a strong position, so I don't really see them raising. So that's a good sign. That means we can have maybe another month of bullish price action, because if you look at the Bitcoin price chart, where is that post I put out? Hold on. I've got so many stuff open. I haven't really sorted it out. But if you look at Bitcoin on the daily, it has broken out. So Bitcoin hasn't just broken the daily trend. It successfully retested it as support for the first time since the downtrend formation. But Bitcoin has also been sustainably above the downtrend for a period of several consecutive days. So this is a bullish sign. Bitcoin has broken the downtrend that we've had for God knows how long now, for the past 2 to 3 months. It's a good sign, and it's had a few daily closes above the downtrend. I do think we'll probably come down maybe to 80K one more time. That could be a region that we could visit. I think that would be likely. So that would put it around 82K, maybe slightly below. But the common consensus, we are bullish. There's actually no catalyst in the short term that I think will bring us down, unless Trump turns around tomorrow and just, all the tariffs that he kind of cut off and starts adding them back into the market. So, he did. There was rumors, according to some of these sources, that Trump says the US will make a deal with China. And this is one of the biggest, I would say, worries for the market. And it's very simple. Trump's goal is to refinance the debt, and he can't do that if the 10-year bond market is going higher. And most of the time, when you see a sharp increase in the bond market, it's normally a worrying sign that either some sort of black swan events happening, or it's going to come in a few days, or recession is going to happen. I mean, every single time that we've had a major crisis, whether it was the COVID, whether it was the 2008 crash, the bond market just spiked up like this. But I don't think this was because of that. this was strictly because I think China is selling a lot of their bonds due to the tariffs that has been put on China. So obviously, this is like a weapon that China does have against the US. If the US acts up like they did recently, China would just sell the bond because they know that Trump has to refinance the debt. And if he can refinance it at 3.5, a lot cheaper, 4.2, 4.3 is very expensive. If he can refinance it even down here, he can save hundreds of billions. And whether you can, that kind of money can be used to pay back the debt. It could be used for other stuff. But you want to get you want to get this as cheap as possible. And that was Trump's entire goal. And he was working up until he started going aggressively against China. I'm sure Trump understands that China is the second biggest bondholder for the US. And if you start fucking around with them, they're just going to sell your bonds. It's going to increase the price and you can't refinance the debt. So I think that's one of the main reasons why Trump has come out and said that he will make a deal with China. So that's a good positive sign. I think 70 countries, according to Trump, has come through to make a deal. The only one that that was really against the US or against Trump was China. So if they make a deal, the market will pump on the back of that, and that is a good sign. Brian, good to see you, bro. Top G, good to see you as well. Yeah, Shadow, good to see you as well, bro. Hit the likes, Beta you. Well, if you guys are just coming for a few seconds, just hit the likes. You guys can leave if you want. It doesn't matter. It's hard to predict the bottom, but do you think we're close to the bottom also? I think we've had the bottom, the short-term bottom. We could go into a new weekly low, maybe in the next couple of weeks. But I would say for the next couple of weeks, we're more likely to pump than dump. That's what I think. But we will most likely have, one more retest of the 50 moving average or possibly off the trend line at some point. It all depends on the data that's coming out. I mean, at the moment, we don't really have too much data coming out in terms of any major catalysts up until next month. But the only thing that I would say is Trump he's trying to find ways to get rid of Powell. This is what the rumors are right now. The rumors are White House says President Trump is studying whether he has the ability to fire Powell, which he don't have the ability unless he has a clear cause, which he does have. The Fed is a private company, and Trump obviously is a president for the government. So the two different entities. Trump cannot fire Powell directly. He doesn't have the power. Powell works for the Fed. He doesn't work for the government. So unless there's a very good cause, which Trump has a good cause, inflation is down to 1.3%, well below the Fed's price target. He needs rate cuts. The market needs rate cuts. Powell has a history of being late. He's scared. He's a little pussy. He's scared. And so what he does is he likes to do everything once it's 100% clear. Once inflation is going deflationary and unemployment starts going up, then he likes to cut rates, which is too late. You don't want to be too late. Europe just cut their rates. A lot of all these countries are printing. Japan has started printing. Euro is printing. China's printing to mass levels, and they're using that money to buy gold. That's what they're doing. But there was rumors that China was selling BTC. Apparently, that was all fake as well. So you're seeing a lot of manipulation, a lot of lies for people to buy cheaper, because a lot of people have missed the bottom at 74, 75K, whatever it was. And now they're just trying to FUD to get it cheaper. But Bitcoin is holding up really well. You said the last dump expected by the end of April, right? Only if the BOJ increased the rates, which at the moment it doesn't look like they are. So I would say the bottom is more or less in. I think the 74K for BTC, that was the bottom. The only thing that could have brought us lower was the BOJ, which it does not look like is going to happen. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So that's what I said. Short-term NAI, 20x potential. What's the long-term duration actually? So look, NAI, in my opinion, when you look at crypto projects, you have to look at specific catalysts or specific requirements for you to say, is this project worth holding for the long term? And I think NAI has the long-term potential. And the reason is because when you want to hold a project long term, you have to look at is this project generating revenue from their products? If they're not, then the only solution they have is to either get more VC funding, which most projects struggle to do so. Some projects do get more VC funding, but they use that money for stupid stuff like fucking buying luxury mansions and cars and all that bullshit, like the CEO of Minlayer was doing. But he recently got another 50 million somehow. I don't know. Maybe it's bullshit. We don't know. But you can either get money through VC funding or you can generate money through your actual product, which what Nai is building, they are generating revenue. And I think their new product, which is this right here, is the Nexus. It actually helps a lot of companies sort out all the data stuff. So this is like a data management product. And I think a lot of companies will utilize this. And I think this will generate them a bunch of revenue. They already make money because they are a legit business in terms of revenue wise. So I do think they will be worth holding, maybe a moon bag, and then you can always buy back in the bear market if maybe we get a recession later in the year. You can always buy back, because my consensus is we'll get a pump, because every time you go into a recession, you go into this crazy mania phase where everyone's calling for crazy numbers, and then everyone gets trapped. Smart money gets out, retail gets trapped. It happens every cycle. People start calling for stupid numbers. Everyone gets overexcited, and then a recession comes randomly, and everyone gets caught with their pants down. And then, and then what tends to happen is the people that there's going to be a bunch of people that's going to sell, and there's going to be some people that's going to be in denial. They're going to be like, no, a recession is not going to happen. And then they're going to wait for the previous high and say, once we get back to that high, I will sell again. And then we'll never get to that high. Price drops, and then he'll be like, oh, if I just get to the second level, the previous level, I'll sell again. And then they end up losing a bunch of their gains. And then sometimes some people just end up holding it through the bear market. That's what happens to a lot of people. So I do think Nai is worth holding, but I personally would not hold anything unless it's like a 5-10% moon bag into a recession. Nothing is bigger than the program. Everything will go down, including Bitcoin, including any coin that you think is so sustainable now or is doing really well now. In a recession, everyone's just going to be a pussy and just start panic selling. That's what happens every single time. Nothing is bigger than the program. Even though BTC is made to counter recessions, that's what it's made for. It will still go down no matter what people say or tell you. It will go down because it's held by retail. Retail will sell. Institutions will obviously sell and buy back lower. So I would not be holding anything in the bear market personally. Maybe a 5-10% moon bags of my favorite projects. I will do that, depending on how much they pump, because some projects do go, to new highs and then they don't come back to the previous lows. So it makes sense to hold them. But that's only projects that have a sustainable revenue coming in consistently, so they don't have the incentive to sell their own tokens. If your project is selling their own tokens, then it's only going to die, or if not tank massively. Some of these projects will just, even if they're generating small amounts of revenue, they'll still sell their tokens going into a bear market, and then they'll just abandon the project. So you have to be very careful. But I do think Nai is worth holding long term, but I personally wouldn't hold a large bag. I'd hold maybe a moon bag. Mirko, good to see you, bro. Cool guy, good to see you as well, buddy. Steve, good to see you. Mugen, good to see you as well. Good to see everyone in the chat. Hit the likes, guys. Tell me something good. Yeah, so we are looking good, Bushman. We are looking positive. Everything is aligning for the next move up. Global liquidity is rising consistently. And if you guys don't understand how global liquidity works, it's very simple. It is correlated to the US dollar. When the US dollar shows weakness, which it looks like is going to continuously go lower, other central banks can stop printing money because it won't affect their currency against the US dollar if the US dollar is going down. So that is why they print and global liquidity goes up, because the central banks start printing on the back of a weakened dollar. When the dollar is strong, they can't print. If anything, they don't print. And that's when global liquidity goes back down, when the dollar gets really strong. So that's basically how it works. And because the dollar is looking weak, a lot of these countries are starting to print, including Europe, including China, including Japan. And these are the biggest economies in the world, pretty much. So, when they print, that's why I'm saying when global liquidity goes up, Bitcoin will follow at some point. And it looks like we're en route to follow Bitcoin. It has broken this trend right here. If you guys can see for yourself, this trend has been broken now, and this is a very good sign. We've actually had 1 to maybe a week's close above this level. So maybe one more time, depending on how you draw this trend line, maybe you'll come down to 82k, maybe you'll come down to 80k around these regions, and then we'll most likely will go higher. That is what my consensus is. I do think we'll probably retest this trend line, maybe wick below to give a fake out, and then go higher. So that is one possibility. But in terms of the cycle lows, which is this area marked off, and it hit this region 2 times, I don't think we'll visit this again. The only thing that would have made me think that we would have had hit this region one more time would have been the Bank of Japan. But since the inflation numbers come out, I don't think they will raise rates this month. We'll have to wait for the next month, most likely. What does that mean? Someone translate, please. Space is good to see, buddy. Thoughts on Peak, brother? Could it be a good robotics play with the machine economy? Yes, Peak is a very good project. I do like Peak. I haven't even opened up any of these ones. Yeah, I do like Peak. I think Peak will do well. The only thing I would say is a bit concerning regarding Peak. What the fuck is this? Why is it up so much? Oh, this is fake. Okay, I was gonna say this is up 65,000%. It's crazy. So the only thing I would say is a bit concerning regarding Peak is the vesting schedule. So it does have a harsh vesting, but I think that a project like Peak has the capabilities to hold up. But I mean, just look at the volume. Something as good as Peak only has 3 million volume. And that's how bad the market is at the moment. That's how you know everything is dead. It's like people don't realize. A lot of people was like, oh, you come on here and say every week we're going to get 100. The reality is, if you're too scared to buy right now, you will never make money in crypto. And this guy over here, where's that fucking thing going on? I've opened so much shit, bro. I don't even know. This guy right here, right? Most people don't get rich in crypto because they miss entries. Is because they couldn't sit out when it mattered. A lot of people capitulate and think the market just never going to recover because they don't understand macros, they don't understand specific things, or they bought the top and now they're panicking and they've sold. This is why a majority of people do not make money in crypto. There's going to be periods of time where you have to exercise patience. In 2022, when we had the FTX crash, everyone was in. Smart investors purchased at that time. And then we went into 2023. We had a January pump, mostly an AI pump. And then throughout the summer, everything went dead again. Everything was crashing. Everything was dead. And then guess what happened in 2023? We had a very big pump into 2024. You could have said that was a mini alt season. That was pretty much a mini alt season. And then we went dead again in 2024, rallied end of 2024 for like a couple of weeks. But I do think the big pump is coming this year. I genuinely think so. I mean, this is the first time we've had Bitcoin, will pump on the back of global liquidity rising rapidly, way higher than it was previously. And the previous pumps, global liquidity was pretty much just stagnant. It was just consolidating. This is the first time it's broken out. So Bitcoin has realistically done this little mini bull run on the back of nothing. No global liquidity. It's just been rising on the back of mass adoption, on the back of the ETFs. And that's a very good sign, because once global liquidity comes, and the Fed is likely to end QT June to July times, in my opinion, latest August, but I think July is probably the magic month. I think that will be the time the Fed will end QT, and that will trigger an alt season, because the only time alts pump, and this is the only time it pumped in 2017 as well, is when the Fed stopped QT. It was that simple. Everything was dropping up until the Fed stopped QT, and then we had an alt season. The exact same thing will happen again. Nothing's going to change. When QT stops, everyone gets risk on. Everyone in crypto will see all these altcoins blowing up. They will sell their BTC because BTC is not going to give them much money. And then guess what's going to happen? We're already going to be positioned. A lot of people will jump in, and there will be our exit liquidity. That's the difference. I mean, people that hold now or buy now, you will get, let's say the market pumps, BTC pumps to 140 to 150K. Most of our altcoins would already be up 4 to 5x. And then once people from Bitcoin start selling their Bitcoin and going into altcoins, and dominance starts coming down, another 10x from there, you've already made 40 to 50x, because you've held throughout, And when the market is pumping, when Bitcoin's at 80K going to thing, your altcoins will pump in that period. And then when dominance drops, everyone starts selling a Bitcoin into the altcoins, and then you can make it an extra money. But because you front run your gains is way more than the people that just have Bitcoin and then jump into altcoins. That's the difference. That's how you make life changing money. But it requires patience. If you can't hold your bags every, for a couple of months when they're down 30, 40%, then how are you going to deserve the 40 to 50 X's when it comes? That's what a lot of people miss in this game is patience. All you have to do is very, very simple. The altcoins you hold, follow the team, follow the Twitter, and just see what they're doing. Are they still building? If they are, then you don't have nothing to worry about. The project is still there. Obviously, if your project is rug pulled, that's a different story. You have to get your money out, whatever's left of it, because it's dead. But just look at the projects that are building, and you don't have to worry. You just have to just exercise patience. Maybe go out, do some other shit, start a business or something. You don't have to be just fully focused on crypto. Crypto is not a get rich quick scheme unless you're gambling on meme coins, and you might be lucky on one, but you have a better chance of winning the lottery pretty much, unless you're an insider. Do something else. Just be patient. We'll see a pump somewhere this year. Yes, 100%. Feels good to see you, bro. How you been? It's good to see you, Neil. Where can I buy crypto G action figures? I don't even know. I need one of those as well. Yeah, so this concept of a super cycle, I hear it a lot. And what I think will happen, and this is my consensus, you're hearing a lot of people say, recession, we're going into recession. The reality is, and it's very evident, we've been in a recession since 2022. They've just changed and artificially changed the name of a recession. For years and years, for decades, a recession was 2 consecutive negative GDPs, which we already had in 2022. We are in a rolling recession. They've just artificially, through printing money, kept the GDP high. So we had the initial print and they said, no, unemployment's too low. We can't be in a recession. So now everyone only looks at unemployment as a consensus for recession, not a GDP anymore. Even though GDP is high, GDP is, it was very strong, 3%. Now it's come down to 2.4, 2.5 recently. We're going to get a GDP print in a few weeks, sorry. So that will tell us, the only thing that I would say is, if unemployment is a reasonable level, then you can't technically be in a recession. But I do think rolling recession has been happening, and I think we will get some sort of growth scare at the end of the year. So maybe 2025 into 2026, we will get, maybe the unemployment market gives, the data market gives, and we go into maybe like a mini recession, or they announce a recession. But generally, when they do announce the recession, it means they're ready to come out of it. So what I think the Fed will do is, I think they'll announce the recession. The Fed will do small amounts of QE, maybe 3 trillion, and they're going to realize that that's not doing anything to the markets. We're going deflationary, because at that point we will be going deflationary. I think we will have a deflationary crash. It's very obvious. Just look how fast inflation is coming down. It's at 1.3% in the space of a few months. That's trueflation, and trueflation is up to date. The Fed uses some stupid old metrics that doesn't make sense anymore. It's too old now, it's outdated. But trueflation is very low, and it will continuously go lower, in my opinion. I think unemployment will start to rise at the end of the year. I think they will artificially keep it the same for the next few months, get people into the euphoria phase, and they're going to trap a lot of people. And when unemployment just randomly spikes up from 4.5 to 5%, and then that is when everything's just going to dump and collapse on the back of that. And then the Fed will do small amounts of QE. They're going to realize that this is not enough. They're going to do another wave of small amounts of QE again, and they're going to realize this is not enough. And I think within 1 year time frame, the Fed will just start printing stupid amounts of money, COVID levels types of money. I think from 10 to 20 trillion in one go. And that is when a super cycle will actually happen on the back of QE. But, QE comes when the rates are zero. Forecast for this year is the Fed will cut maybe 1.5, to 1 basis point. So we'll probably go to about 3.3% to 3.2, and then we'll probably get the recession. The rates will slowly come down. When it gets to zero, the Fed will be able to start QE. They're going to probably do emergency cuts, but it's not going to be enough. The only thing that will keep this Ponzi scheme going is mass amounts of QE, and then everything will just collapse. And I think a new system will come into play. I think the fiat system will die sometime in 2030, in my opinion. I don't think the fiat system is sustainable. This debt, the only reason, like I said, we're not in a depression is just the constant printing that they've been doing, and is very evident because as soon as Trump came in and he started cutting with Doge, guess what happened? The market tanked because most of the stimulus that was pumping the markets was coming from government spending. When Doge came and they started cutting some of that money out, the market tanked very quickly. This is the problem with just stimulating through government side. And GDP was likely to go down based on the fact that 25% of GDP is government. So it's a very tricky thing to do what Trump is doing, and I think he's not doing a bad job in the sense where he is bringing a lot of investments from the private side. So that is kind of rising GDP. When you bring a bunch of money from the private side, GDP will go up from the private sector, and he can cut from the government spending. But at the end of the day, your currency is still in a deficit, which means your currency is still losing value every single day because this Ponzi scheme is relied on the money printer. That's it. Once they stop printing, this whole shit will collapse, but they're not going to do that. And that's why I say we will go into a recession, a mini one that will last maybe 6 months, 8 months, a year max. And through that time, they will print. It's not going to be enough, and they're going to just do record levels of printing. And during that time, if you're smart and you buy during the recessionary phase where everyone is screaming, well, we might be already be in a recession, whatever, they finally admit it. If you're smart and you stack cash this year and you buy during that period when everyone's shit in the bed, everyone's calling for depression, blah, 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 blah. If you buy during that period, on the back of the QE pump, you will make life-changing money. And I think after that initial, that crazy pump that we have in maybe the end of 2026, is going to be, you're either going to be poor or rich. So you have to decide for yourself, do you want to either be poor or rich? Because there will be no more middle class. The middle class is dead. If it's not dying, it's already dead at the moment. There is no middle class anymore. You're either struggling, working 2 jobs every single day to get by, or you're living a comfortable life. You can afford to do whatever you want. That's it. There's no middle class anymore. The middle class is absolutely destroyed, and that's what the system does. It destroys the middle class because there's no manufacturing anymore. Everything is gone more expensive. That's why the fiat system is corrupt and is a Ponzi scheme, because the only thing that keeps the Ponzi going is consistent printing, and that consistent printing devalues your currency. So you might look at your bank account and it says 15 grand, and you look next week and it's still 15 grand. Just because the number is the same does not mean your currency is not being devalued every single day. So if you're keeping money in the bank, obviously you have to keep some if you got family and stuff. But if you're a young person and you've got no rent, no bills, and you're just keeping money in your bank, then I would say you're a fucking retard, because your currency is losing value every single week, every single month, and you're not doing anything. You have to invest that money to counter that the deficit in the currency. Most people don't understand that because they only look at their bank account as the same number every week if they don't spend it, and they think, oh, my money's not losing value. So you have to invest during those periods, because that is what's going to make your life changing money. All the people that bought during the COVID shit, they became millionaires. That's what happens. That was basically, you could call it whatever you want, COVID. That was basically this fiat system collapsing into a recessionary phase, and they just come out with the COVID shit. It's just a cover up. But we haven't seen a full recession, but we're going through one now, and they've just covered it so well. At some point, they won't be able to cover it, and the only result is to start mass QE, or they will just lose the number 1 spot to fucking China. I don't think they're going to be able to do that, or they won't do that. Imagine Trump studying. I miss the time when you'll wake up and randomly see your portfolio 3x. That time is coming, but when you're talking about that type of, wake up and your portfolio is 3x, that will come, in my opinion, at a later date. I don't think that will come this year. I think we will get a nice pump this year, maybe something like 2023 to 2024. But if you're looking for something like the 2020 cycle, that will come at the end of 2026 when the printers turn back on. But I do think we will get a nice pump on the back of QT ending sometime in the summer. Should my long-term bags be fully packed at this point? I would say yes. Your bags should be mostly packed. I always say keep some cash aside just in case. That's how I've done well throughout the cycles. Having cash on the side is always important, whether it's 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever it is. As long as you're happy with your bags, you should always have cash for either trading, or there's always going to be opportunities in the market. So they'll always keep cash on the side, but your bags should be packed. Your bags should have been packed for fucking last month or two. We've had the craziest drop, 80 to 90% drop in altcoins. What are people waiting for? 100% drop or some shit. Your bag should be pumped. You should be buying the best altcoins, the one that react the best to the markets, the ones that are developing. Because look how many projects have rugged recently. A lot of projects have rugged, and they're going to continue to rug in the bear market because they're just Ponzi schemes. They're here for the short term, make some bit of money, and they're going to fuck off. There's going to be very few projects that will stay around into the next cycle and do even better than the previous cycle, because as time goes on, that project is only going to develop. They're not going to get worse every year. They're going to get better and better. Lexa, good to see you, buddy. Smash the likes, indeed. Quasi, good to see you. I'm doing fine, my friend. How are you? I've never been live on a Saturday, actually, but I got a football tournament tomorrow, so I can't really be live. So I decided to go live today. D-Clan, good to see you, bro. I appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving me recently, bro. Especially in this dead market, bro. Like, realistically, most people don't even like going live in a dead market, because there's always retards that come out of nowhere, bro. Like, there's retards that come out when a coin's dumping. They'll be like, oh, that coin's a scam. And then when it pumps the next week, when the market gets bullish again, they disappear. And then when it dumps again, they'll come back and say some bullshit. It's just fucking stupid. That's what the market is. The crypto market is just people dunking on each other. It's just so pointless and it's childish. All of us are here to make money. You're not gonna make money by fucking when the market pumps, the bulls dunk on the bears, and when the market dunks, the fucking bears dunk on the bulls. Exactly. This is another good thing, right? When the market was dumping, most of our altcoins wasn't really moving. They were just holding steady, and even now they're just not moving. And the reason is very simple: dominance is at record levels. Like, this is the reason your altcoins are not moving, is because look how high dominance is. It's at fucking 63, almost 64%. When the altcoins were moving, it was down here. When dominance decided to dump, from 60% to 54%. This is when we were getting the 10x's, the 5x's, the 12x's, the fucking 30x's in one night. This was the dominance drop. This is what you look for to see a good alt season. You're not going to get it when it's at the all-time highs. So, you have to just be patient, bro. Alts are usually in ready May. You think this time will be different? They are normally ready May, but then again, I don't really take that serious, because if you took that serious, then in reality, the market in Q1 post-halving should always be bullish. But we've had the worst Q1 in history of crypto, pretty much. Every single Q1, we've had at least 1 month of green. This Q1, we've had 4 months of straight red. So when you say the market is normally red in May, all of that stuff is that's old cycles. This is a business cycle, is different. Everything relies on the macros. The macros is the most important thing this cycle. If Trump comes out, and it's mostly a Trump market now, Trump comes out, we made a deal with China, it could have been the worst month in history, the market will pump. Or it could have been the worst month in the best month in history, and Trump puts 30% tariffs on everyone. It just goes down the window. So I don't take the previous month's data serious anymore, because it's all out the window now. It's all controlled by the fucking elites now. I think it's a good meme coin, actually. It's a good meme coin. Trust, good to see you. Rich, good to see you as well. Man said immunity. At this point, I have 7 grand left. Based on everything, it's logical that I should invest now. I don't think we're going to see a downtrend. In the short term, we are not. So let's say we pump over the next couple of weeks. It's okay for you to buy now and then obviously dump into the downtrend. So, for example, if Trump comes out and says, some fucking tariffs on some new countries or whatever, then the market will obviously react to that. But I think most of the tariff stuff is priced in. Even when China placed an extra 30% tariff on the US, no one gave a shit. The market didn't even give a fuck. It went down like $200 and just recovered 5 hours later. So I think the tariff stuff is mostly priced in. I think most people are now, because of the expectation that we are going to get rate cuts in sometime in July, the market is just don't give a shit anymore. It's very obvious. No matter what Trump says, they know rates are coming, and this is what people don't realize, right? There's catalysts for rate cuts, and you have to look at why the Fed is cutting. The Fed is cutting rates because inflation is coming down. That's a very good thing. If the Fed is cutting rates because unemployment is going up, then the market will react a bit negative to that. Yes, it will pump in the short term, but the ultimate goal is the unemployment is going higher and we have a higher chance of a recession. But what's happening now is unemployment is still strong, but inflation is coming down rapidly. So that's a very positive situation for the Fed. The only reason, in my opinion, that we're not seeing a Fed cut in May is very, very simple, is the bond market. The reason the Fed is being a pussy pretty much is because the 10-year is too high. When rate cuts get priced in, this comes down. However, rate cuts are getting priced in June, but this is going up. And the reason this is going up is because China is selling. So obviously, the Fed is in a weird position. If they cut rates now in May, this will continue to rise. Because what that will indicate to people, or people holding the US bonds, is that the US is in a very bad position, and that's why they're cutting rates. So that's why Trump has put Powell in a weird situation by he's blaming Powell, which is retarded. He was going well up until he started putting a lot of tariffs on China. China started selling their bonds, caused this to go up. They can't refinance the debt. Powell was thinking, why is this going up? And if they cut rates now, this will only go higher, because everyone would think the reason they're cutting rates, there's no, apart from inflation going down, there's no other catalyst for them to cut rates in the short term. This will continue to go higher, just like it did over here. So, I think this is one of the main reasons that Trump has to make a deal with China, the bond market. They have to refinance the debt. They don't have no choice. They will save billions, hundreds of billions, if they can just get it down here somewhere a little bit cheaper. I don't get why he wouldn't do it. He should have just fucking refinanced the debt over here and then decided to do what the fuck he wanted to do with China. Because once he's locked it in the yield, it doesn't matter, does it? But yeah, I would wait for Monday. I don't really trust weekend pumps, because weekend pumps are for retail. There's no institutions buying or selling at these times. I don't trust weekend pumps personally. I think we'll probably maybe head down one more time, and then it will be a good time to buy. But right now, I don't trust weekend pumps. I don't recommend people buying on weekends. Only coins that are just really, hasn't moved too much, then it's okay to DCA. But the reality is, I don't personally trust weekend pumps. What percentage should I be in? Well, everyone should be at least fucking 90 to 95% in the markets, but realistically at this point, always keep some cash on the side. 100%, you have to take profit. You have to DCA out when we pump next. I'm not talking about a little fucking pump to 90K and then you start taking profits. I'm talking about when we go to 130, 140, 150, the next top, the blow off top, you have to take profits. If you don't, you're a fucking retard. You haven't learned nothing. No one took, a lot of people didn't take profits when Bitcoin was up here. You just round trip most of your bags. Some of them are down. If you don't do the exact same thing, if you make the same mistake again, you're a fucking retard, and you're going to hold your bags all the way into a recession, into a bear market. So I don't recommend doing that. You have to take profits on the next pump. I'm not going to fucking tell you when to take profits. Not my job. You have to be, everyone has a certain goal. I'm not going to be fucking blamed for someone missing 50K off their goal because the market went slightly higher. You have to be responsible for your own shit. But on the next pump, DCA out. You DCA in and you DCA out. That's how you guarantee money. Yes, there's always going to be one retard that tells you, bro, I held all the way to the top and I sold then. But that's 1 in a million. The smart investors, they DCA out. When you see a 5x or 10x, you take your initial 25% out And then if it goes higher, you take another 25% out. It goes a little bit higher, you take another 25% out, and then you leave a 5 to 10% moon bag. Some of these coins will do well in the next cycle, but you'll never see those prices that you got in initially. So it makes sense to do that. Big G grinding this week. Nice work. If this new intensity hard to follow up, thanks. Yeah, I gotta stay consistent for my YouTube channel because I've realized my growth on my channel has been very stagnant, and that's because I do live once every 5 days, and obviously the algorithms don't like the type of stuff. So if I want my channel to grow, I have to be consistent, whether it's through videos or live streams, either or. When to eventually buy heavy, or can we slow? I would start buying now, but I would wait for Monday because I don't trust weekend pumps personally. Isn't it coincidence that some fucking whale bought 200 million today, and then everyone's just started FOMOing on the back of that guy? So I don't really trust it. But like I said, bro, at this point, everyone should be mostly in the markets, bro. Like, just be enough in where you're happy when the market pumps. Don't be one of those that don't want to buy now, because the reality is everything is down 80 to 90% altcoin wise. When it's down that much. And this is another thing that people tend to, and it's a very bad habit. For example, let's look at ATR, right? ATR went down to 10, 11 cents. People won't buy now because they're waiting for that same price again. The reality is some of these will never go to that price. And if you just fucking zoom out, all you have to do is zoom out. Does it fucking matter if you got in here at 1 cent or 1.1 or 1.2 when it goes to 10, 11, 12, 13 cents? Does it really matter? It doesn't. You're going to make good money. You're just being picky, and picky people, because they have a short-term 5 minutes time frame, those are the people that miss the bottom, or they want something 5% cheaper, and then they'll miss the pump. That's what happens. I know plenty of people that do that. I know YouTubers that used to do that. When I used to give them good alpha, they used to be like, no, I want to get it 5% cheaper, and then they'll fucking buy it 5x higher. That's how stupid some people are. So you have to be very careful not to be one of those guys, getting something, I don't know, 5% cheap, and it just never happens. So it could happen, but it's like, why take the risk for 5-10%? It doesn't make sense. Julian, good to see you, brother. No one can compete with you. I appreciate that, Andreas, bro. Thank you. What you reckon, G, out of markets? Yes, my friend, definitely. Q3, Q4, I'm out of the markets, but I'm not even going to hold. Don't give a shit what anyone says. Is very obvious. A recession will happen this year. Unemployment's going to go up. It's going to get weakened. And the reason is very simple, right? Unemployment right now, hires are down, but layoffs are also down. At some point, layoffs will start going down, going higher. And then because no one's hiring, the only solution is for unemployment to go higher. New question, what's QT? Quantitative tightening. So when you look at the markets, where's my fucking Fed wall? This right here is, where's the blue line? This right here, oh shit, zoom out. This blue line right here is the Fed balance sheet. When the Fed is taking, so think of this as a swimming pool. This is the best way to explain, right? The swimming pool is empty here in 2017. Look, this is when the Fed actually stopped QT, and then we had a nice pump. So this is, you see this, right? We had a pump. 2017, obviously the Fed was printing loads of money coming out of the fucking 2010 crisis, and then the Fed stopped QT, and then obviously the markets pumped one more time. We went back into a bear market when they started QT again, and then just think of this as a massive swimming pool. The Fed is filling the swimming pool with water, and is now at the top of the water over here, right? The swimming pool is filled to the top. And over the years, the Fed is now taking that water slowly out the swimming pool. Eventually, the swimming pool is going to get too far down. If you jump into it, you're going to break your legs. So what the Fed does is they stop QT for a bit, just like they did over here. They can always start QT again. They stopped it for years, and then they started it again, and we went to a bear market. So they can always, if shit goes to really bad, which I don't think it will, but they can always stop it for maybe a year, half a year, and they can just start it again at a later time, and we can go back into a bear market. The Fed has tools to control the market. So at this point, since basically 2022, the Fed has pretty much only been taking money out of the system. because they printed too much during the COVID crisis. So when the liquidity is getting sucked out of the markets, risk assets tend to go lower, specifically altcoins. So yes, throughout the markets, you will get pumps here and there. But the reality is, while QT is still happening, there is no sustainable pump. And that's why this is why we haven't had an alt season, a real alt season, for a long time. You can say 2023, 24, that was a mini alt season in my eyes. Like a good alt season, you could say. But it's not a proper alt season, because a proper alt season, dominance goes down like 20, 25%. So we haven't had that yet. During that time, dominance only went down 5%. It was just all the people that were sidelining USDT, those people FOMO'd back in on the back of the ETFs. So what you seen was in 2023, the USDT dominance was basically at the all-time highs. And then we had this massive crash in the USDT 2023 into 2024. And then when it hit this long-term trend line, you can draw this trend line over here, and this is when you take profits. That's when it was. This is when you took profits, when it hit this long-term trend line that you had for a very long time. So right now, the Fed is obviously taking assets off their balance sheet. They just do it, normally they do it in a very fast manner. Then they slow it down slowly to the point where eventually it will just go flat. And then the markets can actually pump for a bit, because the Fed isn't taking money out of the system, and they can do stealth QE through backward. The Fed always does stealth QE, but you just don't hear about it because they don't come and announce that we're starting QE. They just do it. That's why it's called stealth QE. So they inject money into the markets and liquidity into the markets, but they won't come out and announce it. That's what they done recently. They injected a bunch of repo into the markets, and the market stabilized. So the Fed has tools, and this is what the Fed said. When the Fed said on the previous talk, we have tools to inject or to basically come in if the market goes to shits. That's a pivot from the Fed. That's basically the Fed saying, if shit goes to, if everything goes to shit, we're ready to print. That's a pivot. And the reason the market hasn't dumped, crazy amounts, even though China and America keeps raising the tariffs, is because the market knows now that if it does go to shits or something breaks, the Fed is ready to come to the rescue. And that's why no one wants to sell. And that's why Bitcoin is doing so well recently. Even the stock market is not doing that bad. So when QE comes, the reason we had the biggest bull run, or for altcoins at least, in 2020, simply because of QE. The reason this cycle has been so shit is because of QT. So you don't get business cycles every other week. You get them, this is the first full business cycle we had in a decade. And that's why this cycle feels so different. In the previous cycles, we had QE, we had a stop to QT most of the time since fucking 2020, 13 all the way to 2018. QT, there was no QT, everything was just normal. And then they started QT again for a little while, and then the QE came, and then we had the crazy pump. And now the money's getting stuck back out of the system. And, during QT, altcoins don't normally perform that well consistently. They'll do well here and there on the back of crypto catalysts, or, but overall, they don't perform that well until QT stops. So in my opinion, that will happen in July, because they're going into the banking reserves. I don't want to go through that story again. Maneki down 60%. Yeah, that's why I took profits on the artificial pump. Get rid of it. Last pump on decent price. Did a better. Yeah, of course. It was too obvious that it was fucking an artificial pump on Maneki. Thoughts on AWR? All will retire. That just sounds retarded, bro. Sounds like a meme coin. All will retire. The only people that will retire is the fucking devs, bro. That's the only people that will retire. Yeah, it's a meme coin, bro. It's a meme coin. It looks like it's doing well in the short term, but are you gonna buy something 40% up? Not really. I wouldn't do that. You have to be smart. Don't buy shit when it's pumping, bro. Don't FOMO in. Guns and butter. The fiat system is sustained by a military. We don't need gold. We need the military to maintain the dollar. And that's why, and this is very true, Humble, because it's very simple. Trump did say that no matter what, we're never going to cut military expenses. So this is, they could cut plenty of money and fix the deficit, the debt ceiling, but they won't, because most of that printing is catered. 1 trillion is catered to the defense. If they cut half of that, guess what happens? They can actually make the currency stronger, but they won't, because this is a Ponzi scheme. The entire system is a Ponzi scheme that requires on printing. And military, the reason the US can do whatever they want is because and the currency is doing well recently. It's backed on the military. That's it. It's not gold. They got rid of the gold reserves, and the currency, or the entire fucking hegemony, is backed on the military. That's it. When someone comes and challenges them, like China, then they're gonna go back and forth. It's like an ego contest. What do I think about Deep South? Is it worth buying? No, it's not. Deep South is not worth buying. Appreciate that, buddy. This guy's in chat today. Let's go over some of our projects update. So this is the Nexus thing, so you guys can actually talk. So this is actually good, right? This is interesting. You can talk easily with your data. Trust the AI. You can have full verification. You can set up step-by-step agents, did and verify each step. So it's quite interesting, because the data that you have, or the data you've built up on the data management stuff for these companies, you can actually talk to it as an AI agent. And this is what they're trying to build on Nuclei, which is quite interesting. Max Lee, the CEO of Alt, just done 3 different interviews in Dubai. So this is very good. This is getting the word out there. It's going on podcasts. These guys are not too bad. They've got a decent platform. Where's the other guy? This guy over here has decent platform as well. So 93K followers. They have like some sort of podcast for crypto. And then they have, where's the other one? There was another platform as well. Web3 TV. This is the one. Web3 TV. Doesn't look like it's a big one, but is going out there, is getting the word of all out there, which is very good. This is good form of marketing, going on podcasts. These guys will have an audience of crypto investors. They themselves will probably purchase a project. On the back of that, Alt has pumped like around 10%, so it's pretty good. Where's the other thing? Hold on. Sensei is doing a $10,000 hackathon. So this is, they're expanding to the education sector. So anyone that wants to build something for education on Sensei, maybe like a specific replica for the education sector, then you can be rewarded, in price, which is very good to see. Sensei, the CEO, is actually in talks with some government officials, which is quite good in my opinion. Local governments are facing unprecedented challenges, blah blah blah, so they can basically manage their workforce. AI is the answer. And Dan has managed to actually do an interview with some of these fucking officials from whichever, I don't know which country it's from, but it's a good step though, because they're going towards mass adoption. And the thing about Sensei is, the more people that use the replicas, or if they get a fucking big company to use the replicas, it brings in a lot of revenue. They're already generating revenue, but the more revenue they make, the more developers they can hire. It is a good look for the project. The more developers, the more updates, the more revenue you make, the more sustainable you become. So it's a very good sign. Or is going to be launching a launchpad as well soon. So a new powerful feature is coming soon to the Alt Data Hub, set to leadership, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to have a launchpad where any company or anyone can, create tasks. So for example, it's quite good, because let's say you got a community, and or you got a group of people that will do tasks for you. You can go reach out to some of these companies and say, I can offer you basically to train AI. You give me this much money, and then you can come on the Alt Data Hub, launch the tasks. People will you can reward them with whichever money. So let's say you make $5,000 off the company that's paying you, you can pay them $3,000 or $2,000. People will be incentivized to actually go and take pictures and train the AI for you. So this is what is basically what they're building. I think it's quite good, because what you're going to get is you're going to get a bunch of companies. You're going to get a bunch of AI companies coming onto the launchpad, and they will get their community to then come onto Alt, train the AI for them, and they will either get rewarded in Alt, or most likely their own tokens, those companies' tokens. So you might get a bunch of Web3 projects partnering with Alt, launching on their launchpad, and then training AI through. I think they have over 130K members on the Data Hub. So it's a very good thing in my opinion for all. You know, the word will get out there a lot quicker. And then, so they're going to update us on this 800 million token burn. So for those of you guys that are unaware, they made a proposal to burn 800 million tokens. Obviously, most people are not going to say no to that. 92% approval rate. So they're going to wait for the next steps, which is pretty good. The Human AIX Alliance have just partnered up with Solus Group. So this is a big Web3 advertising marketing type of company. So that's going to obviously help them with the community-led adoption and bring basically decentralized AI to the global stage. So that's good. They partnered with this company right here for AI Deepen. So this is basically the new platform. So for those of you guys that are unaware or don't know where to basically follow the alts updates, just go on the Alt Foundation on the website and it will have all the articles in this format. So, you know, I think this is a pretty good update, a pretty cool update. Tells you everything that they've done for the past week or two. A good sign. And then we've had Spar supermarkets now accept Bitcoin payments in Switzerland. So this is where the mass adoption comes in. People don't realize that USDT or stablecoin dominance, or not dominance, sorry, legislation is coming. And what that means is you make 100K in crypto with USDT legislations, you're going to get a bunch of companies around the world that's going to offer payments in USDT. So people can now see the value of crypto. You can make money in crypto and then use it in the real world. That's where the stablecoin regulation will come in. And that's going to be massive for the entire crypto space. You can now use your money, the digital money, they call it, in the real world for actual products. So this is very good sign in my opinion. You know, so whether it's Bitcoin, USDT, USDC, ETH, that's probably the top four they'll probably use in my opinion. And PropBase has had a very big update. I think this is a massive update for PropBase. What they've done is they've basically launched a new website. They've transparent with a vesting tracker. So whichever tokens they're going to unlock, very, very transparent. You can see on the website, integrated announcement, compliance, etc. So they are going to be regulated, or they already are regulated, but they want to be even more compliant. Scalable end, whatever that fuck that means, block in optimized block infrastructure. I don't know what that means. But anyways, the biggest updates is the vesting schedule has now been extended to 8 years now, and annual inflation capped to 8%, which means that over here, right? So the core contributors foundation, blah, blah, blah. So the only time they will unlock tokens is based on price of the project. So they won't unlock if the project is not doing well in terms of price. They will only unlock based on price, which means if PropBase for the next month does not pump, then they will not unlock any tokens. That's a very smart thing to do, in my opinion. They will only unlock if, let's say, the project pumps 30 to 50%, then they will have the incentive to unlock. Otherwise, there will be no unlocks. And I think that's a massive update. Performance-based unlocks. I think this is one of the biggest things. And CZ was talking about this feature, and I think it was quite smart. And I think these guys must have seen it or some shit and then implemented it, which is very good. 75% monthly unlocks, remaining 25% require price increase. Yeah, 10% price increase is what they say. So I think that's very smart. But yeah, 75% of the whole supply is catered to community, 25% to core contributors. So I like that from PropBase. Very good update. I think that's it in terms of updates. Let's go over some questions. I've given you guys the market update. We're looking positive. Bitcoin has broken out this downtrend. You guys can for yourself. Fuck happened to my chart? Oh, yeah, because I'm on the 1 day chart. That's why. Let's go on the 5 minutes chart, whatever. Oh, that's 5 month chart. Anyways, fucking hell, man. Yeah, but I showed you guys the breakout. So we are in the breakout. 5 days consistent above the breakout. That's dominance. That's why. Fuck. Yeah, there we go. Broken out this downtrend. Maybe a retest one more time, and then boom, we go. Good evening. Is it a good time to DCA or after me? I think it's a good time to DCA. I don't think the Bank of Japan will raise the interest rates. And this is why I stopped DCAing, because I wanted to know if the Bank of Japan was going to raise, because if they do raise, then guess what happens? You're going to get a massive crash in the markets. Massive crash. Last time we had the Bank of Japan was in August, and we pretty much had, see how big this drop was. Price range from here to here. We had a 30% drop in BTC from the top, pretty much. 30% drop, which is crazy to think about. 30% drop. So it could have happened again, but it doesn't look like they're going to raise rates because the currency is strong and the inflation numbers come in somewhat decent. I think that's smart. I think that's very smart right now, because you got to think like this, right? Every 1K in the market now could be 15K, 20K, 30K in 4 to 5 months' time. It's not going to do nothing sitting in your bank, realistically. If you got a normal job and you have money and cash on the side and you don't need it, there's no point keeping it in your bank. Your bank that's not going to make you money. That's how I think, at least. You don't have to think like me, but if you got responsibilities, obviously you have to be more responsible. But I don't have responsibilities, so I take massive risks. So that's what I did when I was younger as well, and that's how I made a lot of money. You have to take risks. Risk always pays off if you just be patient and cash out at the right time. 400, I think that's more than enough. That's a good amount. I would say between 100, I would aim to get at least 100K. That would be a good amount. Between 50 to 100K if you're a small investor. If you're somewhat of a larger investor, get between 200 to 400, 500K. I think that's good. Anything above that would obviously be crazy, but all is just a strong project. Any project that has strong revenue, like all probably makes more than fucking Ethereum does these days, bro. That's how crazy it is. How solid is Beam and worth adding to long-term back easy 5 to the next? I would say there's better projects out there than Beam, because Beam, the gaming narrative is so dead. I do think it will come back, and I think the gaming narrative will have its time this year on the back of GTA or something. I don't know, but the gaming will come back, and I do think Beam will do well. But you can get a fucking 5 to 10x on an RWA project, like something like Plume. Plume is a good project in my opinion. But yes, I think Beam will do a 5 to 10x comfortably. Yes, because I do think gaming will come back, and I think Beam is by far the best gaming project. It is indeed a very good bag. Fantastical, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you in here. Sensei has become stagnant. Any thoughts on that? I think that's positive. The market is stagnant, my friend. So, I don't know what you expect the market to do when dominance is at all-time highs. I've just explained to you. Don't look at the market. The market is stagnant. Bitcoin stagnant. Ethereum is stagnant. Look at Ethereum chart. They just look like a chart that's up here. The whole market is stagnant. So look at Bitcoin's chart. They just look like it's pumping. So Daimo, good to see you. Yeah, I do try to give good advice on here, bro. I do try. Appreciate it, though. Appreciate it. So focus long-term bags now, mostly in the markets. No need to focus on trades now. Now, you can't really trade. I mean, the only time you trade was when you see sharp drops. So when you see a drop like this, you trade. When it rallies back up, trade, take profits, comes back down, trade, take profits. You have to see some sort of movement to trade. If there's no movement and Bitcoin's stagnant, there's no point trading for fucking, let's say Ondo going from 82 cents to 84 cents. You're not going to make no money. It's not really worth even taking the risk. Do I think the cycle will end at the end of 2025, or do you see? I think, yes, end of 2025. I don't really see us going. There's a possibility as we get closer. I can't tell you now, obviously, it's hard. But it's going to be hard to predict how unemployment is going to behave at the end of the year. So I would say, to be safe, end of 2025, yes. I would not hold into 2026. I personally would not. Guys, G will give sell alerts and you must follow. Exactly, yeah. I gave a sell alert on Maneki like 2 days ago when it was at the all-time highs. And then, because it was and then it dumped 2 days later, because it was very simple. I didn't cause the dump, or my group didn't cause the dump. It dumped 2 days later. The chart was just too artificial. It just looked like it was going to dump, because it's like you can't pump 4 to 5x in 1 day. Like Maneki pumped 4 to 5x in a space of 3 to 4 days, or like, let's say 5 days max. without any major dumps. So that's an artificial pump. And a lot of meme coins are doing that now. So you have to be very careful. You see, I'm seeing a lot of meme coins have these artificial pumps. The fucking whales pump it. And then guess what they do? They dump their bags, but at the same time they dump their bags, they go fucking short on the bag, and then they make way more money off the short than them pushing the price up. So they'll buy back in and then they'll dump the token, obviously, but they go long before they're ready to pump it, and then they go short when they're ready to dump it. So you have to be smart. A lot of this shit is manipulated. You have to be very careful. You have to look at the chart and see this is not normal. And you can't take, just ignore it, because it would have been down. My whole group would have been down on Maneki. But you have to sell at the right time, bro. It only makes sense. It's weird. The chart just looked fucking weird, bro. You think 7K at the moment could make 100K? I don't think so, no. I don't think so. I think you can make 70K, 80K, 90K. But you could make 100K, yes, you could. But the reality is, let's be honest, bro. If you can turn 7K into 70K in a space of 6 months, how long would it have taken you to make 70K work in a normal job? Let's be real. So, if you can even get a 10x and then buy back that in the bear market when the recession hits, get into the right project, you can make $1 million off that 70K. So it's not, this whole investing game is not a fucking sprint, it's a marathon. You don't have to get rich in one cycle. No one ever gets rich in one cycle. I never got rich in my first cycle. It took 2 cycles afterwards to make good money, right? So it's not a sprint, my friend. It's a marathon. If you can turn 7K into 70K, you've done fucking really well. And then you can turn your 70K into $1 million next cycle, into the bear market. When you go into the bear market, that's when you can make life-changing money. Not at the end. We're at the end now. So I can tell you, I can probably lie to you and say you could make 100K, but the reality is it's not even safe for you to hold for the 100K. Just get a 10, 15, 20x and get the fuck out, bro. We're coming towards the end game now. Like I said, you have to think from a logical perspective. How long would it have taken you to make 70K work in a normal job? It would take you fucking years, bro. Take you years. It would take you at least 3 years to actually save. 3 to 5 years to save 70K in your bank. If you can make that in 6 months in crypto, it's fucking plenty, bro. So and then do it again the next cycle, and then you can make life-changing money. My ATR bag is 50% packed, gonna 80% packed to the stream. That's valid. ATR is basically the all-time lows. If you're gonna buy this shit, buy it now. Why would you wait? This is basically the same. It's been holding this trend line for a while. Done that last time and then just exploded up. This is a quick moving coin. It's not going to be one of those that's just going to be stagnant. Every single time it's pumped, it's had this fucking aggressive pumps up. You missed the boat like that. Look at it now. Is it not looking like this? It's looking exactly like this chart right here. Maybe one more snap down to the downside or some shit. Possible, but I don't really see it happening. And then boom, off we go. But even then, just keep some orders down here, maybe to 1.2. I always tell people, and I've been telling people this for fucking years now, always put your orders lower down just in case it wicks. It doesn't have to hit. If it doesn't hit, who gives a shit? But if it hits, it'll bounce back up and you're already up 20, 30%. You can always trade it if you don't want to hold it. Just trade it. So always put orders lower down, and you will always sometimes, like this, look, wicked below 1 cent. I put orders 0.09 back in these times right here, and it hit. I was never expecting it to hit, but it hit. And then guess what? When it went up here, I was already up 7, 8x because I got this. I got this wick over here. So, and then, but even if I didn't want to fucking hold it, I could have just sold on this green candles right here. I would have been up almost 2x. So putting orders lower down is always a smart thing to do. This is this is one thing that's stopping me from buying heavy. This exact thing. So I'm not gonna force. I wouldn't recommend people to hold heavy or to buy heavy at the moment. I would say start DCAing again because we don't have the Bank of Japan raising. But this is the numbers, because if you look at the Fed Atlantic, they're predicting GDP to come in negative. But the thing is, are they going to release the real numbers? This is what I'm 50-50 about, because the reality is they always going to lie about the numbers. They've been lying about the numbers for fucking years now, 3-4 years, 2 years now. They put a number and then they revise it later. They bring out a good number, they revise it later. I don't know if they're going to do it. If they do, it will be okay, because the Fed will come to the rescue anyways. If they get a GDP print negative, Fed will come and start cutting rates, maybe 50 basis points, maybe more. But the recent one came in 2.5. I don't really think this will come in negative, in my opinion. I don't really see it. It's possible though. Appreciate that, my friend. We want best YouTubers always keep it real. Big up respect to you. Looking forward to staying with you in data with the bear. Yeah, the bear market is going to be a lot more fun, bro. You guys will see how much money you can make in the bear market. People don't realize, because most people come in, like a lot of people, when crypto's dead, they forget about it, they live their life. And then when crypto's doing crazy and then their friends talking about it, that's when they come in. But the reality is, you come in at the top, you're coming in the local top, you're going to get raped. Everything's going to go down 60-70% when you buy in, because you are retail, and it will go up again. But in the bear market, you might think ATR 1 cent is cheap. In the bear market, this will fucking go down, fucking over here, maybe 0.002. That's the difference. So you might think, like I said, ATR is cheap at 1 cent. When the bear market starts, you'll get it at 0.02. You get it fucking 10x, 15x lower. I think I need to catch up with the chat quickly, bro. Is a good analogy, the swimming pool for the QT. So I think that's a very good analogy for people to understand. Do you have any high cabs in your bag, or you just riding low? No, I don't have nano cabs. Most of my holdings is BTC, ETH, Injective, Ondo, and maybe some C. But I haven't purchased too much C. I got a couple grand. But most of my bag is high caps. I have a low cap portfolio and a high cap portfolio. I don't touch my BTC and ETH. I just leave it there, because I've held that for years now. I've had that since like 2017 times. So I don't even consider that as my portfolio. That's like you can class that as like a fucking saving account or some shit. I don't touch that. That's always going to be there. But I have my low cap portfolio as well. Mid cap to low cap. Zilla, good to see you, brother. Launchpad is pretty bullish, yes. Very bullish, yes. Which chain the most bullish on for meme coins? I'm thinking about rotating in and out of base. What's your prediction? Yeah, Su is good. C, fuck C, not C. Sol is great too. For meme coins, probably Solana is probably the best. Base is really good as well. And Sui is good on the back of when Sui does well. So for Sui, I would only buy the main ones. The problem with Solana is there's too many. Base, there's not many that's going to do well. So if you want to be safe, go with Su and Base. Just pick the top one in that chain. If you want to be a bit more degen, because Solana has so many fucking high cap memes, we just don't know where to pick that. And then you can always pick a fucking Murad coin, like an SPX or something for Ethereum. Walaikum salam, bro. How you doing? Any Bricken updates? Prop-based Bricken, Hoover are on the same market cap. Yeah, Bricken has been updating. They just got a fresh round of VC funding recently, and there's no more unlocks. So this is another thing that what I like about a lot of these projects. They don't have unlocks. Like all the unlocks are very low. Like this, ATR is almost basically fully diluted, and they're going to burn more tokens, maybe another 4% of the supply in a couple of months, or in a couple of weeks. Sorry, they just put the proposal out. So when the proposal is done, they're going to start burning more tokens, and the market cap is going to go lower. The supply is going to go lower, but there's no unlocks. So that's why I like ATR. Bricken has all the early investors has basically got their tokens. So there's fuck all unlocks. I don't know what the rest of this is for, but all the early investors are out. So this is mostly for like ecosystem stuff. And that's why we see in Bricken just slowly climb up. And it's a good sign. It's broken out the downtrend and is ready to start going up now. It's a good sign for Bricken. It's most likely will go up. But Bricken, you just go on the Twitter and update. I'm a strong fan of Bricken. I hold this project. I've actually been supporting them since they came out. So, and they've been doing really well. I like the development they've been doing. So yeah, I just don't talk about it as much. I need to start talking about it a bit more, but I do like Bricken. Do you think 5K alt is a good amount besides other assets? 5K USDT or 5K in alt tokens? 5K USDT in alt is plenty, my friend. What's the two cryptos medium risk that's under the radar? Medium risk. I'll probably say alt, my friend. You kind of know them, but if you're talking about medium risk, I'll probably say the ones that I haven't talked about. One of them is Plume. I think Plume is a very good project. It's not medium. I don't think there's a lot of risk for Plume. The only risk I would say for Plume is just the unlocks. If you can stomach the unlocks, then this will do well. So the only risk to basically Plume is the unlocks, but the unlocks are not that heavy. Last time they unlocked, they just tanked. Nothing really happened to the price. It dumped a little bit, but it absorbed it fairly well. So this is one of them. Another one that I do like is Lumia, but I don't want to buy Lumia yet because I think this will continue to go low, in my opinion. If it doesn't, then it just had this sharp wick, but recovered very well. If you can just hold this price range for a little bit longer, then it's not a bad time to buy. But I don't like catching falling knives. Crypto, good to see you, bro. How you been? What's my top 3 picks in terms of risk to reward? If you want something that's going to be a quick mover, I would go with ATR. Very fast mover, will do very well. I would go with Nai. Nai has very big shillers on YouTube. This will do very well. And then if you want another quick mover in RWA space, it will be Rio. Rio is, it has risk, but because Rio has been around for 2 cycles now, is pretty, I would say it's pretty solid in the sense where they haven't rug pulled in 2 cycles and they're still developing new shit. But the only thing with Rio is they've burned more tokens recently. They've burned an extra 300k tokens, 300k Rio. I don't know what that equates to, but anyways, they've burnt 300k Rio, and they're going to be burning more with the district stuff. But the only thing with Rio is you have to be okay with crazy price swings because there's only 10% in circulation or 10% in circulation, in the sense where even though you guys can see it's fully diluted, but 90% is staked. 90% is staked, only 10% is available to buy, which means you're going to get violent price swings to the upside and to the downside. So it has that risk. You're going to see Rio, for example, go up, almost 2x and then dump aggressively. Like, for example, over here, right? When you had that crazy dump, it pumped from 15 cents or whatever the fuck it was, all the way to like 32 cents, and then dumped all the way back down to like 12 cents, and then rallied back up to 22. So if you call the top, you would have been just basically 2x there, 2x there. And then, but the thing is, like I said, because there's only a certain amount in circulation, the price swings are going to be very aggressive, but they're quick movers. Sensei is another one, very quick mover. When the market gets bullish and you see dominance start coming down, you are going to see Sensei climb. So just like today, look, it's pumping. Just look in the last month, it's doing very well. Goes up, but you can always trade these moves. It's like a 30% pump, 40% pump right there. Comes back down, buy. Crazy price swings. You can always trade these, but these will do well in the long term. So these are the ones that I like in terms of risk wise. You can obviously buy alt, but alt is not going to be a quick mover. So when you're talking about quick movers, alt is not a quick mover; it's a slow mover. Just like it's up 5% today. But you look at the month chart, it had a very nice pump. It was up like 60, 50% over here, rallied back down, and then looked like it wants to go back up again. So that's a good sign for real for alt. But there's no risk for alt anymore because all the big updates, all the big unlocks are done now. So all the validators, the Microsoft validators, they've got their tokens now. Very good. There's not going to be crazy unlocks anymore. There's small unlocks, like 2 million tokens every 5-6 days, but that's fuck all because most of that is not for early investors. All the early investors are pretty much out now. So that's a good sign. And has good volume, but most of the volume's on big get. That's what you have to realize. Most of the volume's on big get. And then at the same time, it's not a fast mover, but he's one of those that don't really dump either. So when the market dumps, you're not going to see this dump 20, 50%. You might see this dump 5, 10% max. So it will always hold better than majority of projects. But the upside is not great either. This normally pumps when the market's dead for some reason. And then when the market gets bullish, it just doesn't do anything. Appreciate that, guys. Smash the likes, guys. Come on, let's get to 100 likes. I don't even know how much likes we're on. My goal is 80K, 70K invest in this one. After that, I will achieve 5X. Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. That's a very reasonable. You have to be reasonable. You can't have stupid thingy when you're basically at the end stage. We're at the end stage now. You're going to get one more pump and we're going to get a bear market. So you have to be very, very, I'm not pulling another 1 hour 40. I'm gonna be live for another 5 minutes and I'm off, Jobin. But good to see you, Jobin, though. Good to see you. Hit that like when you're in, bro. My thoughts on Goldfinch. I'm not really a fan, and I'll tell you why I'm not a fan, right? Because I have very strict requirements from RWA coins. Goldfinch is, you have to look at Goldfinch as a platform where people can get yield, right? People will get yield. So on estimate, they'll get 10 to 12% yield. Apparently, they have crazy amounts of loans and whatever bullshit, right? You can't really trust this RWA coins. We've learned from Mantra that most of them are just bullshit. But you have to look, and I don't know if this is updated, if they need to fucking update it. A project that has 60 million market cap and is strictly for yield, they should have way more TVR than they do. There should be way more, 700K is not enough. It's simply not enough for a project this high. This should have at least 2, 3, 4 million. I think it did at one point, but it's just been coming down consistently. So the total value locked should be a lot higher because you're offering yield. And when the TVR and people are locking up the money, this is what the platform is made for. And it doesn't look impressive when your market cap is 60 million, but your TVR is only 700K. So that's my only concern with Goldfinch. I don't know if this is not updated or not. Maybe I haven't done my research fully, which I haven't done my research in terms of that aspect. But I can only go on the data that's shown on here. And on the data on here, it just shows no one's using this platform. 700K is not enough. So no one's locking in the yield because the reality is no one fucking trusts these guys. No one's going to trust some RWA coin in crypto, lock up 100 grand, 200 grand. Most people are not going to do that. I can imagine the only people that's locking up is probably the VCs that's backing this. That's it. So I'm not a fan of this. I think there's way better RWA coins than this, in my opinion. Way better RWA coins. I don't like anything with yield because institutions are not going to come in and lock up the yield of Goldfinch. They're not. The only people that's locking up yield is fucking retail or the VCs that's backing this. There's not going to be much other people. It's mostly retail, in my opinion. Like I said, if institutions are not going to ETH to fucking get yield there, why are they going to come to Goldfinch? How do we know the team's just not going to fucking rock pull us? That's the issue with this aspect of RWA, the yield farming. I'm not a fan of it, but it can still do well. I mean, it had a nice pump, but just look at the chart last year. It's not been looking good. It's not been looking good at all. I mean, just look at it from here, right? This was the point where everything was getting bullish. It's pumped from $1.40 to $2. It's like 50% pump when majority of projects were doing stupid amounts. ATR was up 7x. Bricken was up like 4 or 5x. Prop base was up like 4x, 5x. I don't even know how much it was up from the lows. And this, all it done was a 50% pump. That just shows no one gives a shit about this project. You have to be realistic. And you have to, at the end of the day, we're here to make money. Look at the performance. Has this been performing during the crazy times when the market was bullish? It did not perform. Had 150% pump or 30% pump, whatever it is. But it's not enough. So you can knock your tokens in this, but are you going to make money? The reality is you're not. So I'm not a fan of this one, buddy. Not a fan of this one. So I mean, just look at ATR. I mean, just look at let's go look at prop base, for example, during the November-December pump. Prop base from 4.5 cents or whatever the fuck it was on Mexi, it went to 15 cents. So that's just over 3x. Goldfinch didn't do shit. ATR done a 7x during that period, 6-7x on the lows. Probably more if you talk about this lows in August during the FTX crash, this should done like a fucking 14-13x. If if you talk about this lows, I got in over here, so I have to talk about from my lows. But if you got in over here, you would have been up over 10x. That's the difference. So you have to look at stuff that's going to make you money. Look at Bricket. Bricket went from 12 cents all the way to 60 cents, 65 at some point on fucking Mexi. Look at Rio. Rio went from 50 cents to almost $2. And this was a high cap at that point. So you needed a lot more money to move it. From 50 cents to $1.50. So at least it done a 3x. But Goldfish did a 30-40% pump, but the TVR is too low, bro. NAI is looking real good right now. It is. NAI is looking a perfect time to buy. This is I've been stacking up this project because like what they're building is it will be used. It already gets used by many Web3 projects, but it will start to expand to Web2, and a lot of Web2 companies will start to use it. Just look what they're building. This is data management, and they're building it through an AI agent. So this is going to be really like this is going to save people a lot of money. Or it's basically like a fucking data analysis, pretty much. Data orchestration, data analysis, secure, auditable, SQL generation. I convert natural language queries into accurate SQL statements, allowing you to interact with your databases without needing deep SQL knowledge. I analyze data, whatever the fuck, what am I really doing? But yeah, they're building something that a lot of people would use. That's a good, like I said, Web3 projects already use. We hit 100 likes. Nice. It's fucking good to see, but I appreciate the 100 likes, guys. So yeah, I mean, it's been a good stream though, at least. Good stream, no retards. Sometimes you get retards, but it's so annoying. But it's like the internet is the only place. Is the only place where idiots that have never made money in their life will come on here and call someone who's been successful. You know, I've seen someone called fucking Sailor a retard. Like the internet is the only place where someone who doesn't even have 100K to his name will call a billionaire a retard. It's the only place. It's outrageous. This is weird, but yeah, it's good developments from all our projects, which is a good sign. Good mass adoption. Bitcoin chart looks really good. It's broken the downtrend. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits off that downtrend. Fake breakout or broke out over here. And now we've consistently for like 5-6 days broke out. We're holding this region, which is a good sign. We might most likely will come down to 81, 82K, maybe 80K again, retest the trend line, and then I think most likely we'll go and follow global liquidity, which is consistently rising on the back of a weakened dollar. The central banks start printing more when the dollar's weak. So overall, we are looking more bullish than bearish. Trump is going to eventually make a deal, which is, another good sign as well, because they want to lock in low yield for refinance a bit. But on that note, guys, it's been a good stream. 1 hour 30 minutes. I only wanted to do like 45 minutes. Ended up doing a lot more. 45 minutes, but it's been a good live. Mr. T, good to see you, bro. Best bet in crypto, no doubt about it, bro. This is the biggest alt shiller. Good to see you, my friend. But anyways, guys, appreciate all of you guys for coming down. Smash the like on your way out. I will be live most likely on Monday. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy your Sunday, Saturday. I'll be live in a few days. I always say I'm going to make videos, but the reality is I have not made any videos since I've said it. So maybe on one day I'll make a video again. But appreciate all of you guys for coming down. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Bye. Where's my fucking end screen? Bye.